Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Your nighttime, right time DJ Music. And welcome. As I always say, I always got 15 minutes to rock this post. But in this case, folks, I'm going to do this in two segments. I got 15 minutes to rock this post, and I'm going to come back and I'm going to rock it again for another 15 minutes, okay? I'm going to give it 30 minutes on this one right here because, as you can see right down in the corner there, it's 11 minutes and 47 seconds. But I've already listened to it, so I know kind of where I'm going to interrupt and talk about some of the things that the panel's discussing, so to speak. And as a prelude to what you're about to hear, folks, basically they're talking about racism in politics, the racist Republican Party. That nor CNN, MSNBC, Fox News, none of them, Don Lemon, I'll give him credit. He talks about it a lot. But if you're not, in YouTube and Facebook and all of that, you don't really hear too much about that on mainstream news. It's more, especially these days, it's more impeachment of the president, because rightfully so, he should be impeached. I don't understand why they don't think that they don't have enough articles of impeachment right now. I don't understand why we have to have all this testimony. The three folks that they had up in open court last week was enough. They had enough to impeach him last week, or at least write up at least 2 articles of impeachment. They would have stuck. But anyway. And as you can see, the panelists, they'll be talking about racism in the Republican Party. And of course, it's some time ago when I was on another station, Golden Goose Radio, I used to always do a segment to where I would always talk about this. And way back in 2015, when I was on that station, I used to say, before Donald Trump was president, I said, basically what the American public is ready to do. And then long before they had this in mainstream news, folks, I'm not patting myself on the back, but you can go back to my archives over there, Mixcloud, and you can see where in 2015 I was talking about this long before mainstream media talked about it. They will elect a racist president despite having a black man in office. They will elect just the opposite of Barack Obama, based on the history of the United States. Mark my words. Myself, Cedric, Dreadhead Said, and Emma Bradley, we all had this discussion on a Tuesday night. So with that said, folks, everybody wants to blame Donald Trump for the racist activities that's going on. Let me tell you, folks, all Donald Trump did, and I'll say this again, racism was never dead in this country. It's just like grass during the wintertime. It's dormant, but it's still growing. And all you have to do, just like spring, add a little water, add a little sunshine, add a little fertilizer, and it's lush green. And that's the same thing with racism. All you got to do is add a little fire, add a little water, and allow that snake to fester. And you'll see what we have here in the United States right now. You absolutely positively see what we have going on. A racist president that attacks blacks, that attacks Latinos, that attacks anybody of color. Whether you're a senator, whether you're a football player, whether you're a congressman, whether you're a lifelong military man, woman, that's dedicated their entire life to being in the military. There's men and women that have dedicated their entire lives to being in the judicial system. And you got a group of racist Republicans that let the idea of money and power, and pun intended, trump them over morality and what's right and wrong. They see color. They see the exploitation of black and brown and the fattening of their pockets with green. There's no difference now. There's no difference in the laws that were on the books in 1775 than the ones that are on the books in 2019. They're just now been implemented. That's why Trump realizes he can get away with so much. But he's just a puppet for the real racist that's in the Republican Party. Let's take a look at Don Lemon here on CNN and let him tell you about his host, all right?
Bigots on the ballot are the shameful dark side of our politics right now, and they are running as Republicans. So let's discuss now with David Jolly, a former Republican congressman from Florida, CNN political commentators Alice Stewart and Angela Rye. Good evening. You guys saw Tom Foreman's piece. Just to remind you and our viewers, not that you need reminding, but in case people weren't watching over the break, I want to take a look at some of the candidates again. These men have promoted some pretty terrible views, and they're on the ballot as Republicans. What is it, Alice, about our current political climate?
Look at this. Birtherism, Holocaust denier, anti-diversity, Holocaust denier, anti-Semitism, Republican from Wisconsin, Republican from Illinois, Republican from New Jersey, Republican from California, Republican from Arizona. Now, if you got time, folks, after you finish listening to this, I want you to go and Google Joe Apiro. And you tell me who in their right mind, other than a racist, other than someone that thinks that their race should be the dominant force in this country, that would vote for someone like that in public office. Go look up John Fitzgerald. Go look up Seth Grothman. Go look up Arthur Jones. Go look up Paul Needham. Okay? Go look up white nationalists and see if you don't find their name connected to some of these websites.
That is bringing these candidates out of the woodworks and stamping them with the label of GOP.
Don, unfortunately it starts at the top, and we have a president that says things that are outside of the norm, that have not been said before, and a lot of people have stood behind him in that regard. And that's where we are right now. And the civility in Washington has gone down tremendously. That being said, the story we just saw and what we're talking about, these are the dark side and the disturbing side. Fortunately, it is not the majority of people in the Republican Party, and the Republican Party is the party of limited government, fiscal responsibility, and ethical values and life and liberty. And these are a small majority of people in the Republican Party, and unfortunately, we are seeing more of them, but I'm grateful for the fact it's a small majority.
Okay, listen.
Okay, listen. I'm going to stop Don right there, and I'm going to give my take on it before he asks this question. She says it's a small majority. A small majority for what? So basically what she's saying is it's all right to have a small majority. We didn't know about this before Trump, but because Trump says some of the things that are unorthodox, they feel more comfortable coming out of the woodwork now. But thankfully, it's just a small majority. We all don't think that way. But I'm sure this is my question, and this will be the same question that Don will ask her. And as you notice, she struggled throughout this conversation, stumbling and stammering. She struggled with the answers and the way she was presenting herself, because she absolutely knew within her heart that as a white woman, I'm really saying some stupid shit. And you can see Angela over on the right hand side over there, really shaking her head in utter disgust. Pay attention to her as this white woman talks. Matter of fact, pay attention to the white guy as this white woman talks.
Look, I hope it's not the majority of the Republican Party, but the fact is that most of the Republican Party supported Trump, who you just said is promoting this, who's emboldening people. Look, I don't want to disparage any party, or I don't want to cast aspersions on any group, but it does seem that if you're not racist, right, you're at least overlooking it, and you're supporting it by when you go to the ballot, or by not, ballot box and voting for these people, or by not denouncing it when your president espouses some of these views. Am I wrong in that assessment?
No, look, Don, I lost a lot of sleep over the last several years working for candidates that are men of honor and integrity and dignity, and unfortunately they were not the party's nominee. And in the end, I voted for someone that I viewed would, at least the number one issue for me was Supreme Court justices. I worked really, really hard for candidates for our party that would bring dignity to the office. Unfortunately, that was not the case,
right.
and this is where we are today.
All right, I want to get other people. I don't mean to cut you off, but David, did you want to say something?
Unfortunately, she said, that was not the case. So,
and I do. I love Alice's optimism, but I disagree very strongly and almost angrily with it, because this is where Donald Trump has given permission to elements of the party that past nominees and past leaders of the Republican Party have shut down. Ronald Reagan spoke to the better angels. Bush 41 to 1,000 points of light. Frankly, Bill Clinton spoke to empathy. I feel your pain. Bush 43 to compassionate conservatism. Barack Obama to hope. Donald Trump spoke to anger. And where John McCain said to that woman in a very pivotal moment in his campaign, a town hall, where he said, no, Barack Obama is a good guy. Actually, Donald Trump took the exact opposite path and said Barack Obama is a bad guy, and Democrats are bad people, and Democrats support criminals. Donald Trump has given permission to what we are seeing in all of these viral videos, which are very important right now. The Puerto Rican woman who is assaulted at a park because she has rented she's wearing a shirt. The woman who confronts a young black African-American person selling candy bars at a Walmart. Donald Trump has given permission to that element. So I do appreciate and understand the optimism that Alice is speaking to, but I disagree so strongly. It is why people like me in the Republican Party cannot accept Donald Trump's leadership.
Go ahead, Angela.
So I think that the challenge I have here, and Congressman Jolly, I respect you greatly. Alice, I respect you. I just have a problem with revisionist history. I have a problem with the fact that we continue to make it seem like racism all of a sudden was discovered, right, with Donald Trump. That's not really the case. I remember when Michael Steele was damn near ostracized and kicked out of the RNC. I remember when the Magic Negro ad came out. I remember when birtherism was a thing. I remember when there was racism tied to the war on drugs with Ronald Reagan. I remember all of these things and what has happened over time, not just in the Republican Party, because the Democrats have blood on their hands too. It's just not equal. Is we have allowed covert racism to surface, and now it's overt. That is all that's happened, because for years we pretended like covert racism wasn't really that thing. We pretended like it wasn't the undercover N-word. We pretended like calling people ghetto and hood rats wasn't racism, and all of the time it was. And now that thing has become volatile and angry and violent. That is the problem. We cannot continue to say that racism just surfaced. It's been here. This country was built on that. We cannot turn our minds.
I'm gonna stop Angela right there. She's absolutely right, folks. This country was built on racism and slavery. It was built. Even the Constitution itself was not designed with black men, black women, black children in mind. They never thought about us. We were not included. We were excluded. We